So there's a really quick and short video for Level 3 BTEC Business, Unit 2 Business Resources, Task M4. If we just have a quick look at the assignment, just like P6, you are going to copy this budget and you're going to put it at the top of your piece of work. Can I just remind you all that when you are referring to the numbers, the figures are in thousands. In P6, lots of you are just writing 160, it's 160,000, so make sure that you refer to the numbers in thousands in your work. This piece of work for P6, for M4, builds upon P6, and it's writing an email to Pete to explain to him why costs need to be controlled. The easiest way to tackle this is to talk about each line of the budget. So first of all, you're going to talk about the sales revenue. You don't need to talk much about this because we're talking about analysing costs, but you can sort of mention the fact that revenue minus costs will equal profit for the business, and so he needs to keep his revenue as high as possible to make the biggest profit. But the main things that we're trying to talk about here are these three lines: materials, other direct costs and overheads. In each of the three cases, Pete overspent. He spent more money than he budgeted to spend. So for the materials line, in our lessons we spoke about the things that would be materials for a gardener, such as plant pots, seeds, flowers, turf, soil, fencing, paving stones, brickwork, even if he was going to build something, anything that you could imagine that would be in a garden, then Pete would use, this would be his materials costs. So give me some suggestions as to what Pete could do to try and reduce those costs. What did he spend money on that maybe could have reduced? How could he reduce those material costs? In the other direct costs, we're probably thinking most of all about wages, or we could be thinking about petrol for his business, for his van. Probably the two big ones there. So in those direct costs, what could Pete do to try and reduce that overall costs? What would be some problems if he did try and reduce his wages of his staff? Overheads, when we're looking at this line, this is everything else that his business has to spend money on: rent, insurance, advertising, those sorts of things. Anything else that would be connected to the costs of running a business which aren't covered in materials and direct costs. And again, he's overspent here. So how could he try and reduce those overhead costs? What might be some of the problems that he would incur if he tried to reduce some of those costs? And then finally, the answer's in the budget. It says the reasons why costs need to be controlled. Well, we can clearly see the reason that costs need to be controlled, because if we don't get those costs under control, then profit will be reduced significantly. So trying to control costs is hugely important for a business, because without controlling costs, there will be problems with profit. That's all you need to explain for this piece of work. Take it a line at a time, and you remember to focus on the question or the actual M4 task, which is analysing the reasons why costs need to be controlled. So when you're looking at each line, make sure you're answering that question. So we need to control the costs of materials because ways that we can control the costs of materials are, and then in your sort of final conclusion, if you don't control the costs, this is the consequence, this is what happens. So just try and make sure you've got that M4 task in mind, which is analysing the reasons why costs need to be controlled to budget. Okay, so best of luck with this piece of work.